You've done well, so far. But the true test still lies before you.
I was wondering when you'd show up.
I am here to ensure that you do your job, little human. Not do it for you.
I will reach the Sunwell on my own, Dreadlord.
Be warned. It is a pool of mystical energy from which the elves draw their immortal powers. They will not give it up easily.
Do you think he suspects that you've been aiding me, Necromancer?
I'm sure he suspects quite a bit. It is his nature to assume the worst. Now steel yourself. The hour of my rebirth draws near.
What is it now?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Let's Play Warcraft 3. This episode might involve us being a little bit more passive than usual because of the assault that we are going to need to mount to get through Silvermoon and to the Sunwell. And if this becomes too passive, we're going to be doing our first bit of editing, but not yet. The reason that might happen is because we have to amass, I think, a fairly large force. You can see in the bottom center.
She is persistent.
You can see in the bottom center, the only thing uncovered by the Fog of War is the Sunwell itself. It is heavily protected, and it's surrounded by a pretty decently fortified city. So it's going to take quite a bit to breach all of that. Also, I don't want to lose this Necromancer right off the bat. That would kind of suck. Tempted to bring him back in, but I think he will just get focus fired again by the AI. We're going to research web. I'm not sure if we have too many... Ooh, I got hiccups. Too many flying units to deal with in this one.
The elf woman will likely attempt to summon reinforcements.
Then watch for her runners. None of them must get through.
And the reinforcements will also pose a small problem. The first one should be coming up in about a minute or two. And there it is, the Silvermoon Runner's optional quest. I don't remember what you get for completing this, other than you have to deal with fewer attacks. But in the meantime, we're going to clear a base out over on the west side of the map. It's not a super fortified one, and it will buy us a little bit of breathing room if we clear this base out. The other important thing that this will do for us is give us an expansion. So that runner hasn't actually shown up yet, which is weird. Here we go.
The gargoyles we brought back from Northrend could be useful here. The beasts can spot their runners along the main road.
Our forces are under attack.
And this is how we get introduced to the new mission, the new unit of the mission, the gargoyles, which not too much to say about them, aside from their cool ability Stoneform, which brings them to the ground. It makes them unable to attack, but it causes them to regenerate HP rapidly over time. And it also gives them a whole bunch of armor. Other than that, they are just our standard flying units, our basic ones. They can attack both ground and air, so it makes them a little bit versatile. This one, we're going to be using that stone form as it gets attacked by Sylvanas, who is respawned at the altar. That one is most likely going to be a sacrifice, even with the added armor. Yeah, it just bought us a little bit of time. To be honest, I don't care too much about gargoyles in this mission. In the next one, they will be more valuable to us, because they're really decent anti-air units. So while we clear this out, I did get a comment from Rerun about a few things I've been saying, which I think are only accurate to certain versions of the game, namely the Frozen Throne, which is one I'm a bit more familiar with. So what I thought was that Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne were essentially on the same patch, and that anything that was just updated in the transition from Reign of Chaos to Frozen Throne, like specific values and armor types and stuff, would be reflected in Reign of Chaos's campaign. which would make sense given a lot of other Blizzard games and games in general with like big DLC or expansion packs work like that. But here it appears to not be the case. So the armor type stuff that I mentioned last episode is specific to the Frozen Throne because they changed a lot of that stuff around and even added new damage types and maybe an armor type or two.
What is it?
Like Necros, for instance, Necromancers and other casters, they do piercing damage in Reign of Chaos because magic damage as a type wasn't a thing. So there's that. The other big one that Rerun pointed out is that meat wagons generating corpses for necromancers to use is an upgrade from the Frozen Throne. And I think the upkeep thresholds actually changed too. Apparently I forgot a lot about those things that changed between Reign of Chaos and Frozen Throne. Aside from the map editor stuff, yeah, there are probably a lot of details that kind of got lost in my brain.
Where shall my blood be spilled?
But speaking of the map editor, let me just swoon for a second over that.
Yes, master.
Just let me live in that joy, man.
At last. This is more like
As many hundreds of hours, if not thousands, I put into Warcraft 3, just the game itself,
Frostmourne.
I put probably many times more into custom games and the editor. That editor was terrific. It was empowering. It taught me that I could make games. It led me to branch out and learn some programming, how to skin models with Photoshop, how to use 3D Studio Max in a really basic way, but still to learn it to make my own models. It led me to learning to do these things so I could make my own stuff on top of what the editor itself gave you the capability to do. By the way, the only coding language I ever learned was specifically for the Warcraft 3 editor because the editor and StarCraft 1 used their own scripting language called JAS, which is just another scripting syntax. They moved to Galaxy with the StarCraft 2 Galaxy editor. Oh man. Oh man. I'm so fucking nostalgic over this. Because the editor has so much going on. Like, it has this amazing... Everyone calls it a GUI. I always just called it GUI because back in the day, like, I didn't have any spoken resources to learn that everybody called it a GUI from. Like, yeah, and a GUI. This, like, really, really amazing one for a game like this that made it so user-friendly. And so you could do all this cool stuff, and then, like, when the built-in capabilities weren't enough, or the surface-level stuff wasn't enough, you felt like, okay, I'm gonna dip my toes in the water and learn some of the more advanced stuff. I'm gonna learn JAS. I'm gonna do all this. It's empowering, and it was an amazing tangential learning opportunity.
Speak, fool. Frostmourne.
When the Frozen Throne dropped, though, it got even better. It opened up so many avenues. Like, something you couldn't do in Reign of Chaos was make fully customizable spells. Not only could you make new spells within the editor itself in the Frozen Throne, they added its own spell editor. You could enhance them with triggers to do, like, incredibly complex stuff. What you could do in Reign of Chaos was extract the MPQ data and alter that.
At last.
So you could do simple things like rename spells, give them new icons, change their values, stuff like that, but you couldn't make something brand new, not yet. And the limitations of that
Tread lightly.
were that if you based your own custom spell on an existing one, like if you based something on Death Coil, that was it. That was your sole version of that spell. Death Coil was that spell now. So you couldn't have multiple abilities derived from that one thing.
Research complete.
So Dota, the original Defense of the Ancients by Yule, made in Reign of Chaos, had that limitation. All maps did, but Dota is a game within a game that I literally put thousands of hours into. It still had a bunch of really clever things, though. Like, one of the heroes, it was the Tormented Soul, known as the Leshrac in Dota 2, by the way, had this one spell called Diabolic Edict, and it was like a rapid-fire turret effect at the point of cast. So if you got close to where it was cast, you would take a bunch of damage rapidly over time while near that cast point. No spell in Reign of Chaos actually did that by itself. By the way, I sent that small cadre of ghouls down to... It might have looked like I was scouting that out, but that's actually a trigger point. What I just triggered was an attack coming against my base from the south side. And I sent everyone back to the base so they could defend against that attack. It's an Archmage and a bunch of other units that would kind of tear my shit apart if I have no one back here. But by just sending a couple of ghouls doing an attack...
What is it now?
No matter how small it was, we have all of these units coming here regardless. So I can deal with them, and then I can push out into Silvermoon City. But it also did give us a brief preview of what we have to deal with around the Sunwell itself. So even if we were to just run a bunch of units past all of the towers and all of the footmen and archers and all the other stuff in the city, gotta get those 3 out of there. Even if we were to do that, there are the 4 arcane golems and the 4 towers around the Sunwell that really pose a substantial challenge. So where was I going with this? I think I was talking about Diabolic Edict. Right, okay, yeah. So we talked about how it's this rapid fire spell, like a rapid fire damage ability around the point of cast. No other spell in Dota actually works, or no other spell in Reign of Chaos, I should say,
This is more like
actually works like that on its own. There's no spell that just does that. So you can't just change the values, change the name, and get Diabolic Edict. You have to actually get more clever than that. So what the spell actually was a summon, like the Archmage's Water Elemental summons. But I think I think that was based on the Farseer's summon Direwolves. It was some kind of summon like that. Except the summoned units were invisible, they were untargetable, and they had no collision and no movement speed. So they would just stay in place, couldn't get stuck trying to walk around them or anything. And they either had a rapid fire ranged attack or they had some kind of like rapid tick immolation aura. I think it was a ranged attack. I think they just had really high attack speed.
at last.
There was another one. And this was the most advanced spell in all of Dota. No, God, I'm getting all... I love this. You see, you couldn't use the game's script, or you couldn't use its GUI triggers to enhance what spells do because of the options available. So triggers in Reign of Chaos work like this. You have events, conditions, and actions. Those are the 3 basic components of a trigger. The event is simply when X happens, move on to the next step, which is the condition. And the condition checks to see if a specific criteria is met, and then it moves on to the final step, which is the action, which is whatever you want to actually happen when the trigger triggers. So, in other words, if X, do Y. If X is met, do Y. So let's say an event is Unit Y enters Region X. A condition might check to see, does that unit belong to a specific player? And then if it does, you can do basically whatever you want from there. There was no event in the trigger editor that checked to see if somebody cast a spell, though. So there is no real way to check if a spell is cast to then enhance said spell with other actions from the trigger. So there's a spell in Reign of Chaos Dota that stayed in Dota for a long time, by the way. In All-Stars and Dota 2, that spell belonged to Magnus, and it's called Reverse Polarity. What it does is it sucks everyone in nearby when you cast it, so it's a big AoE crowd control ability. But how do you make that in Reign of Chaos? There's no spell that does anything like that. If this were the Frozen Throne, you could make some spell that does something that does nothing by itself, and a trigger that says, event, a hero casts reverse polarity. Action, move all heroes within X to Magnus's position, but you can't detect spellcasts in Reign of Chaos. So what Yule did was make the spell another summon. Again, like summoning an invisible, untargetable water elemental that does no damage or attacks.
The restless dead.
The trigger editor couldn't detect spellcasts, but what it could do is detect when units entered a region, and you can specify the region as the entire map. So when unit enters the map, then move all heroes within range to the position of that invisible unit. It's so fucking cool, and that's the most advanced spell in Dota because it actually used triggers in a creative way. Oh, that's so fucking clever! So yeah, when the invisible dummy unit enters the map, just move all heroes within range of the spell, whatever you want that range to be, to the hero that casts reverse polarity. And that's how reverse polarity was born. So if we're lucky, we're a little bit unlucky in that we got 3 of the golems. They are super beefy, they have splash damage, they do chaos damage. Whew.
No one orders.
We didn't get one of them though, the one in the bottom left corner, it looks like. That's nice. Man, and the Frozen Throne expanded on all those capabilities so much, and do I even need to tell you about how big the custom map scene was? I should say? Like, the MOBA genre was born out of Aeon of Strife in StarCraft, and that genre exploded in Warcraft 3. I made my own AOS once, and it was so fucking fun and fulfilling. Man, like, Uther Party, the Mario Party knockoff, came from Warcraft 3. Tower Defenses came from StarCraft, and then, again, exploded in Warcraft 3. It's just fucking incredible.
No one orders me around.
And this is part of why I say Warcraft 3 is my favorite game of all time, the best game ever made, my desert island game.
Citizens of Silvermoon, I have given you ample opportunities to surrender, but you have stubbornly refused. Know that today, your entire race and your ancient heritage will end. Death itself has come to claim the high home of the elves. Now arise, Kel'Thuzad, and serve the Lich King once again.
I am reborn as promised. The Lich King has granted me eternal life.
I've upheld my end of the bargain, Lich. Are you ready to tell me about the Dreadlords now?
Certainly, but not here. They have eyes and ears everywhere. We'll talk where it's safe.
So while we were effusively gushing about the map editor and how giddy it makes me happy, we just committed elf genocide. So let's learn a little bit more about the Burning Legion.
So, you're not upset about me killing you that one time?
Don't be foolish. The Lich King told me how our encounter would end.
The Lich King knew that I would kill you?
Of course. He chose you to be his champion long before the Scourge even began.
If he's so all-knowing, then how can the Dreadlords control him like they do?
They are agents of the ones who created our master, the fiery lords of the Burning Legion.
What is this legion?
It is a vast demonic army that has consumed countless worlds beyond our own. Now it comes to set this world to the flame. Our master was created to pave the way for its arrival. The Dreadlords were sent to make sure that he succeeded.
So the Plague in Lordaeron, the citadels in Northrend, the slaughtering of the elves. It was all just to prepare for some huge demonic invasion?
Yes. In time, you will find that our entire history has been shaped by the coming conflict. Now come, we have much work to do.
Isn't it time you told me about the second phase of the plan, Lich?
Certainly. The first phase of the Lich King's plan was to engineer the Scourge, which would eradicate any group that might resist the Legion's arrival.
Like the forces of Lordaeron and the High Elves.
Exactly. The second phase is to actually summon the Demon Lord, who will spark the invasion.
So where are we going now?
There is a nearby encampment of Blackrock Orcs who maintain a functional demon gate. I must use the gate to commune with the Demon Lord and receive his instructions.
Alright, that's where we're going to stop for today. Thank you all for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one.